2022 Love Light Ceremony. My name is Laura Mays, and I work in public relations, marketing, and more importantly, probably I'm a partner of Stoughton Hospital that is putting this event on today. So again, very pleased to see everybody here, and welcome to this event. I have been doing this, or part of the hospital now for 10 years, and I believe the partners have been doing this since 1992, and quite a few years. And again, this time of year is a tough time for people, so I think this really brings people together, and hopefully you'll find some joy and peace in tonight's program. Does everyone have a program? I guess that's one thing I do want to ask. And if you don't, just raise your hand, and Kelly over here, who's our wonderful greeter, will bring you a program. But I would suggest just following through, and again, taking note of kind of the outline of how tonight or today's event is going to run. We'll be listening to some inspiring music, some talk, and some readings from our guests here. And again, the reading of the names that I know mean so much to all of us here tonight. So after the names are read, the love light trees by the hospital will be lit in real time. And they're going to be displayed here on the monitor. And again, they're going to be lit through the holiday season the entire time. They're located down at Stoughton Hospital, over by the parking lot. You'll see them from Main Street. So it's very visible. And again, just know that you'll be watching them lit, and you can go by and see them at the same the rest of the season. So as you can see, WSTO is filming this event tonight. So thank you for being here, WSTO. You'll be airing this on a local cable channel, and I believe too we'll have it up on our website under the Partners tab in the near future. So if you do want to review again and hear your names, just go to our website and you'll have that for you. In the past, we've held this event at the hospital, and due to COVID, we're over here at Christ Lutheran Church, and I don't know where Pastor Paula is, but there you are. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and being a good partner with Stoughton Health and with the partners of Stoughton Hospital. It's a beautiful, beautiful Christmas tree. As I walked in, my breath was taken away. I said, I got to get home and get going on my decorations. So very, very nice. So I appreciate you being a good partner and allowing us here and being part of this today. And again, I want to, before we move on, I guess pull out your program, and on the back is our Love Light Committee. And this event doesn't just happen easily. We have a wonderful committee and very dedicated people who make this happen year after year. So if you just take a minute to our committee members, and if you stand so that we can recognize you and say thank you. So Melanie Miller, Chair, come on Melanie, Sharon, Mary Haley, Sandra Ramirez, Claudia, Linda Schaefer, Paula Schneezy, Donna and Roger Stranley, and Dawn Winland. If you're here today, thank you so much. So this year, the Love Light program, the theme is inner peace. And we all struggle, as we mentioned, at times to find that inner peace, especially during these holidays. And we remember those loved ones that may no longer be with us. Or if you turn on the news, you hear so many disturbing things happening around us. So again, we invite you to enjoy and take part in today's celebration and find that inner peace. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our hospital president and CEO, Dan DeGroot.
Good evening, everybody. So it was kind of serendipitous. Melanie told me I needed to speak tonight. And then she told me what I needed to say, so we'll get to that. But it occurred to me that it's been 30 years. This is a 30-year tradition. And after she asked me to speak, I was sitting in our reflection room and noticed these big 3 reminders. And I'm like, what in the world are those? And so I opened them up, and I started reading hundreds, if not thousands, of names of people that have passed, people we have remembered, people that we have honored, people that we have recognized. And it occurred to me that what a beautiful, meaningful tradition Love Lights has become now 30 years new, really. And it's also, so I think it's something extraordinarily special. I've worked in a lot of different places, a lot of different markets. I've never seen an organization bind itself to a community through something so meaningful as this. And so it's just great to be on our 30th anniversary here in person for the first time in 2 years. I do want to thank all of you. I want to thank the larger community for embracing this tradition, your support of Love Lights, and through Love Lights and our partners supports our hospital and our ability to create a better healing environment for our patients and for their families. And that's a very meaningful mission for a program such as this. So thank you very, very much for that. And enjoy. Every time I see young musicians, I wish I could play an instrument so much. But I'm going to enjoy listening to you. So have a good evening, everybody, and thank you.
I'm Pastor Paula, pastor here at Christ Lutheran, and I'll begin with the invocation. We gather tonight to remember, to honor, and to recognize. And we ask, Lord, that you be present with us, as you are always. In the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our message today is from Tim Markle, founder of the Forgiveness Factor.
Good afternoon. It is quite an honor to be here. As many of you know, because I came in and saw your faces, you're correct, I'm not a native of Stoughton. But I thank you for embracing me after living here for 27 years or so. So I appreciate that you still have a little bit of the love in your hearts for us outsiders. Originally from Ohio, arrived in Stoughton to marry my wonderful wife, who is a native of Stoughton. From Tracy Freestad, so if you know Carlos and Elaine Freestad, they have taken me into their home and made me part of their family. And for that, I'm very, very thankful, because it also introduced me to this wonderful community. So, Melanie said I had, about an hour? So we're going to touch a little bit on it. But I was actually reflecting on an interpiece last week when I was in the dentist chair. And they were drilling and sawing and cutting and everything that the dentists do. And I'm like, okay, if I could figure out an inner piece right now, I got something I could share. It didn't happen. I did breathe a lot. So if you think that deep breathing is part of an inner piece, go for it. I would agree with you. Feel free to breathe. Whenever I get upset, my wife says, Tim, take a breath, drink some water, remember you got this. So if this was going to be the shortest message ever, I would say, take a deep breath, drink some water, and remember you got this. But I still have 58 minutes left. So my story of inner peace would start with being very thankful for those people who served and has served our country. Because my dad was one of them. He was in the Army, and he was stationed out in Alaska. When I asked him, what was it like being stationed in Alaska? What do you think his response was? Cold. Yeah, that was about all he talked about. Is it was cold, and the pictures they had, those old style pictures, it looked cold, and very, very snowy. He didn't talk a lot about his service, but I'm really grateful for his service. I'm even more grateful that I can tell you a story about inner peace with my dad that wouldn't have been possible without learning about forgiveness and without learning about how to let go of my thoughts, let go of some of my feelings, and to embrace a new way of looking at reality. I would also like to thank the fact that we are honoring raising money for the Stoughton Emergency Department. We have 2 children, 24 and 23 years old now, so we have plenty of options and time to go to the emergency department with that, as well with me too. I utilized it myself as well, so I'm really glad that we're able to help out there today. So my dad, growing up, had a couple of challenges. And the main one being that he was an alcoholic. And so growing up in an alcoholic home is I learned a couple of things. I learned that you couldn't trust much because things weren't always the same from day to day. I learned that there's some things you don't talk about, such as the accidents, such as the family gatherings that went a little bit sideways. By the time I was in high school, my parents had decided to separate and get divorced, and I had determined that it was all my dad's fault. And so I had a lot of anger built up against my dad. I didn't want anything to do with him. I didn't want, well, I take that back. I did want his help when I financially needed it, which wasn't always forthcoming. But for the most part, I tried to separate myself from him. And I determined that the one thing that I never wanted to be was like my dad. It's the last thing I wanted to be. So fast forward growing up, it turns out that there's a little genetic link to alcoholism. And so sure enough, I drank my way into being an alcoholic myself. And there I was, my young 20s, hating my dad, and then hating myself because I was becoming just like him. Well, I learned a couple things along the way, and those are the things that I want to share with you before I tell you the ending of the story. Growing up, my dad was a really cool guy. I went to a private school, and when we had special days off for different saints that I can no longer remember who they were, I probably didn't know much back then, I would go to school with my dad because he was a music teacher at a public school. That's how much I liked school. And that's how much growing up I really liked my dad. So it wasn't always all bad. But just from going to school with him, hanging out with him, I thought that meant that he would be the sort of dad that everybody else had. Because that's the dad I wanted. I wanted a dad who could throw a football to me. Yeah, I know some of you are thinking you can't catch it anyway. True. But I wanted that dad who threw footballs to me. I wanted the dad who would go on the canoe trip to Canada when I was in the Boy Scouts, which is a horrible story involving black flies, allergies, a lot of water, death, moose, everything. It was horrible. Don't go to Canada. Maybe it's changed. But that's the dad I wanted, and he could never live up to those expectations that I placed on him. So one of the first things that I learned as I was dealing with forgiveness is that I have to let go of the expectations that I had of who I wanted him to be so that I could see him for who he was. And so the first thing is, if you are struggling with the loss of somebody this Christmas, take a moment and check your expectations. Have you wanted more than anybody on earth could possibly fulfill? That's what I wanted out of my dad. And see if maybe you can begin to see them for who they are. And so this Christmas, I hope that we will choose to let go of who we want or needed this person to be and accept them for who they are. So let's check your expectations. The second point is focusing our new eyes. My dad was a very complicated man. Worked in the public school system for over 30 years. He loved everything that he did. And he also was a really rowdy father at times. Well, guess what? We're all rather complicated human beings. I don't think any of us are all good. And I know that none of us are all bad. And so it comes down to, for me, what do I choose to focus on? Because I'm one of those people that if I get a thought going in my head, and I don't know if anybody else is like this, it just sticks around. And it just keeps going. And I just add to it. And by the end, that person is the most horrible person that ever lived. And I'm the best person that there ever was. So I had to learn to not trust everything that my mind was saying to me about my dad. I had to look at him with new eyes. And I had to see the good as well as the challenges and the bad. It's sometimes not easy to do when someone has hurt us. But I guarantee you that even somebody who's hurt you, somewhere in their life, there is goodness. There is that desire to love and that desire to be loved. And so I hope that this Christmas we can also choose to acknowledge that, yeah, we might have been hurt, but there's also the good in people. And we can work on remembering the good. And then finally, what would a message on Christmas and inner peace be without belief and believing, right? That word believe. So what do I think we need to believe in? Well, number one, believe in the good. I think that's key. Because I know from my personal experience, what I focus on is what I find. And so if we all leave today, and I go out to my car, and from looking at y'all, I've decided that you are horrible drivers. Okay? I can just tell. I mean, I know there's at least one of you who's born in Illinois, so it's not your fault. Just naturally bad drivers. Nothing you can do about it. But if I leave today, and I think that you all are going to cut me off, and that you all are going to be horrible drivers, and that y'all just don't know what the heck you're doing in that parking lot, guess what I'm going to see? I'm going to see a lot of bad drivers. What if I leave today and say, you know what? I think this room full of people, I think they let other people into lines. I think they let other people go in front of them. I think they know where their turn signals are. That's what I'm going to see. So if I choose to focus on the good, and I look for the good that's out there, or I look for the good in somebody who has passed, I'm going to find it. But if I choose to remain to only look at the negative and rehearse that negativity over and over and over and over and over and over and over in my head, that is what I'm going to see. And I won't believe in the good. So we have to believe in the good. And we have to believe that we can change our thoughts, that we can change the words that we say, and that we can change our behavior. I used to think, because of my addiction, that I was forever bad, that I was just not a good person. I've done some things that I'm certainly not proud of, but I got to the point where I just believed that I wasn't worth much. I had to first, before I could believe I was worth something, I had to believe that I could believe, that I could change. You are all here as resilient examples of being able to change. There's not one of you that has made it to this day without having to change, without having to adapt, without having to sacrifice, without having to give. You can do that with the thoughts that are bugging you as well. You can do that with the way you talk about the people around you, whether they're here or whether they're past. You get to choose how you talk about them. We get to choose how we react to people that hurt us. We don't have to return that evil for evil. We get to choose to return good for evil. And so, hopefully this Christmas we can choose to think good, to speak good, and do good, even when we've been hurt. And that, I think, is one of the things that we have to deal with when we talk about inner peace. We all have hurts. We will not get through this life without being hurt. How do we deal with them? If we continue to nurse them, and we continue to be negative about them, if we continue to see with the same old eyes, if we continue to see how people have failed our expectations, then we're going to be forever agitated. We're not going to have peace. But if we can change the way that we think, the way that we talk, the way that we feel, and the way that we act, so that it's dependent on our choice to do good, not their choice to do evil, then we can live with integrity and we can find that peace. Because we can see them as whole people. And we can see ourselves as whole people as well. So it turns out that I have a wife who refused to give up on my parents' relationship. My parents did divorce, but my relationship with my dad, she had this weird feeling that grandkids should know their grandparents. And so she made us take a trip, multiple trips to Ohio, to see my dad, sometimes when he was still drinking, a lot of times when he was still smoking. And she forced me to open my heart and open my eyes, and forced me to allow my kids to have a relationship with their grandpa. He ended up sobering up, which was phenomenal, because then I had conversations that none of the other kids could have, because we could sit there and we could talk about recovery stuff. And it was really kind of cool. Isn't that, I don't know if it's sad or not, but it was cool for me. The football and recovery, that's what we would talk about. And I am so thankful, because I learned how to open my heart, not to the dad that I thought I wanted or needed, but to the person that was in front of me. And the gifts that he brought, the music that he brought into people's lives, the love that he had for the people around him was phenomenal. He passed away 5 years ago, this last October. And I was fortunate to have my family, my brothers and sisters, and his, the rest of my dad's family too, around when he passed. And I have to tell you, if you had told me I was going to experience anything close to inner peace at 20 years old when my dad died, I would have told you were nuts. But 5 years ago, because of the work of forgiveness, because of people that loved me and told me that I had the possibility to love and be loved, I was able to watch my dad pass peacefully without regret. That's what I hope for each of you, is that if you have anything, anyone who is holding you back from that inner peace, consider forgiveness. Consider what you can do to leave a legacy of good, so that when you do move on, the people behind will be left with feelings of peace and gratitude for the way that you have lived your life. That's what I'm trying to do. Thank you so much for listening tonight. I have, 45 minutes left, I think, that is all I have, so thank you very much for inviting me here. I greatly appreciate it, and I believe we're on to the reading.
Good evening, and now we begin with those we remember. So, in memory of Wilma Anderson, David Arnold Anderson, Beverly Anderson, Eldon Anderson Sr., Herbert Joe Armstrong, Tom Oselson, Pat Backus, Floram Bajrami, Robert Bell, Robert Beckstrand, Lucy Beyer, Daryl and Ilith Bell, Joseph Benish, Laurentino Larry Bravo, Thomas Lee Bryant, Michael Burry, Steve Christensen, David and Susan Christensen, Ryan A. Christensen, Janice Collins, Stephen Collins, Mark and Steve Dawsonbrook, Betty Dennison, Raleigh and Shirley Devlin, Lonnie Dale Dixon, Adam Lang Doom, Clarence Doom, Deborah Drexvold, James Ebert, Daryl Egner, Leona Ely, Jewel Marie Eklund, Richard Erdahl, Sydney and Ruth Erickson, Joe Esser, Sean Everett, Tanner Valiant.
Leanne Fitter, Leander and Alda Mayfilio, Zachary Fetter, Florence Fulbrecht, Patricia Fosdell, Terry Kiss Frank, Patricia Frank, Thomas Wayne Frankie, Barbara Frisky, Roger Furseth, Martin and Rosemary Gasson, Andrea Gosman, Brandon Geiger, Esther and Paul Gibbs, Earl and Ethel Gibbs, Ruben Gonzalez, Robin Gove, Justin Green, Philip Rushing, Richard Brum, Tom Haley, Robert Bob Holverson, Ron Holverson, Pamela J. Hansen, Glenn C. Hansen, Glenn Harwell, Rachel Thompson Hoagie, Donald Hawkins, Lonnie R. Hain, Barry Clifton Hayter, Rhonda Hines, Dolores Helen, Elmer and Emma Helen, Robert Eleonora Emersbach, Lloyd Albert Hensel, Lena Hinton, Laverne Hoffman.
Howard, Barbara, Ronan, and Howard Holton, Robert and S. Haugen, Lyle Haugen, Aaron Arneson Howard, Robert Hubert, Christy Hines, Michael Iverson, Michael Thomas Iverson, Ross Jacobson, Dale Jessic, Susan Marie Jonas, Betty Marie Jonas, John Cardez, Patrick Colin Kelly, Lori Kiss, Teresa Kittleson, Marvin Bertitsky, Jean Joan Coyo, Alfred Kroll, Tamara Kuntz, Mary Lamb, Michael Dean Larson, Lois Larson, Judith Laskowski, Bonnie Ray Ladra, Daniel Edwin Reddick, Anna Maria Lawson, Julie Lee, James Lightness, Patricia Ann Bissell, Marilyn Ludwig, Marie Ziegler Lund, Wayne Merritt, Cliff Merritt, Danny Merritt, Phil Manson.
Roberta McLeish, Michael Francis McNerney, Barbara A. Meyer, Roger Meyer, George and Audrey Miller, Dr. Mike Miller, Deanna Miller Applehans, Sandy Moran, Diane Muleman, Eleanor Helen Neath, Guy William Nelson, Roy Sr. and Nora Nelson, Howard O. Nelson, Ann D. Nelson, Douglas Lee Nelson, Joanne Nelson Grefsheim, Roy Nelson Jr., Virginia Noyce, Roland Harold Odlin, Mary Jane Olson, Orvin and Lila Olson, Willie Olson, Edwin and Francis Olson, Colton Oren, Donald Pernot, Johan and Kathleen Peterson, Robbie Pedersen, Marion Kleinmeyers, Norbert John Preen, Alfred and Georgine Kwong, Elsie Rendula, Ann Niemeyer Repulse, Eric Michael Reese, Nora Reyes, Darlene A. Reynolds, Conrad and Gladys Ring.
Agnes Robertson, Rebecca Romine, Bernard Ralph Roth, David Ernest Rutnow, Fred and Ruth Rushlow, Frederick James Sage, Roger and Betty Saunders, Audrey Schneller, Kelvin and Audrey Schneller, Timothy John Sneezy, Samuel Schoenholz, David June Schwartz, Maxine J. Sebastian, Terry Irwin Seekins, David Severson, Brianna Schaefer, Todd Simmel, Howard School. Gerald Jerry Slusser, Lordine Dee Smith, Dorothy Ann Smith, Marianne Staff, Barbara Stanley, Heather Marie Stetson, Gail Stickelstead, Over Stickelstead, Marcia Stone, Jim Strand, Betty Strandon, Ken Strandley, John Strandley Jr., Jerry Sowell, Kenneth Richard Schweibel, Grace Luella Tufty, Trevon Demetrius Townsend, Mark James Triumph, Bruce Allen Trinko.
Joan E. Beek, Norman L. Mormat, Catherine Warren, Richard and Dorothy Weber, Diane E. Weber, Charlotte Burns, Anna Mae and Ernest Worsland, Richard Worsland, Lillian Worsland, Peter and Elizabeth Worsland, Luann Worsland, George and Anna Worsland, James H. Williams, Alan Dale Woldentine, James and Marilyn Wood, Steve Chipwood, Richard Angel, Minnie Rowland Zickoff.
And now we'll start with in honor. For Denver and Nicole Applehahn's family, Grant Applehahn's family, Virginia Bell, Stoughton Health employees and volunteers, our family, Georgia Geiger, Devin Hermes, Daniel, Mary, Anna, and Griffin Hermes, Jerry and Bonnie Krantz. Our grandchildren, Leo, Isaac, Sosie, and Callie. Loved ones, Sandra Merritz, Jane Marquardt, my family, partners of Stoughton Hospital, Linda Schaefer, Community Health and Wellness Center staff, Brandon, Shanae, and Link Woodward.
Those in military service we recognize. Living and deceased veterans and families, Richard Baynes, Ronald Buss, Walter William Burseth, Alberta and Cordelia Gibbs, Robert Howard Gibbs, Ken Jager, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Kellum, Lieutenant Colonel Julie Kellum, retired, Art Merritz, David Hunter Markle, Doug Wilson, and Irvin Shells.
You can see the lighting of the trees on the monitor here. So thank you for the readings and thank you for being here today. I think we're going to move into our musical selection and please take it away. celebration was appropriate and really beautiful, so thank you. Thank you, where's Dan DeGroot? So thanks, Dan, for starting this off with this opening today, and Pastor Paula, Tim, for your messages of hope and forgiveness. All right, and we'll be moving into another music selection apparently, but I just want to give my thank yous out. So again, we just appreciate everybody being here, and our readers, Mary, Donna, Roger, and our high school musical performers who are going to have one more selection for us. So again, thank you.
Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom and pop, not the way that I do love you. But holy moly, me, oh my, you're the apple of my eye. Oh, I've never loved one like you. Man, oh man, you're my best friend. I scream it to the nothingness. There ain't nothing that I need. Well, hot and heavy, pumpkin pie, cotton candy, Jesus Christ, ain't nothing please me more than you. Oh, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Oh, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Da 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 da. Take me home. Mother, I'm coming home. I'll follow you into the park, through the jungle, through the dark. God, I've never loved one like you. Boats and waterfalls, alleyways and payphone calls. I've been everywhere with you. We'll love until we think we'll die, barefoot on a summer night. Nothing new is sweeter than with you. And in the streets we'll run free like it's only you and me. Jeez, you're something to see. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 la 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 la. Take me home. Daddy, I'm coming home. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Home, let me come home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Yes, I am home. Home is whenever I'm with you. Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my ma and pa. Boats and waterfalls, alleyways and payphone calls. Home is when I'm alone with you. Home
Oh, thank you. It's beautiful. So again, as we wrap up and close up tonight, I hope Tim's words hit you somewhere in your heart where you do look for the good and feel peace this holiday season. We really appreciate you all being here tonight and look forward to next year. You know that we'll be here again offering this event for our community. As we close, though, we do want you to know there's cookies in the back, and we invite you to join us for cookies, beverage. And there's also our 2022 ornaments, so that you can take those home and add those to your holiday tree and remember that special person or persons that you were here for tonight. So again, grateful for you and much appreciated. And our final, and I know I'll get a lot of cues here tonight, our final is on the program, and as I mentioned, hopefully you all have these, but on the bottom, on the first page, inner peace. And we wanted to close tonight having us recite the inner peace, and then again, help yourself to ornaments and to cookies. So we'll start with everybody there. All right, please let me feel the inner peace from my center at the center of me. My heart is open, I am aware, in me is a knowing of love. And thank you for attending, and have a peaceful holiday.